Irish guy, and Ivan Toney massively confuses me. Right now, this man is the latest superstar at the center of an expensive tug of war between Arsenal and Chelsea. Honestly, this is just stupid now. It's like they just copy and pasted the transfer story from last January. It's just they've now put Tony's name in instead of Mikhailo Mudryk. And the summer before that, both Arsenal and Chelsea were fighting over Rafinha and Gabriel Jesus. By the way, Rafinha in the end just snaked them both and signed for Barcelona instead. Yeah, he's been more underwhelming than vegan chocolate in Spain. Why do I get the feeling that if he had wound up at the Emirates, he'd have just been Nicolas Pepe Part 2? So honestly, the absolute lack of originality in Arsenal and Chelsea shopping lists. Honestly, if these two were children, they would just be squabbling siblings who just annoyingly copy each other's Santa lists. But this is another transfer rumor that puzzles me because £80 million for a centre forward who turns 28 years old in March. Tony has only got 2 more years until he's in his 30s. What sort of sell-on value do you think this fella, built like a cruiserweight boxer, is gonna have? His muscles will soon break down, and before you know it, he's gonna look like a squished Troy Deeney, who weirdly is now the manager of that vegan club. Bit of a weird choice when he himself looks like he eats about 12 human heads for breakfast. Honestly, look through his fridge and I guarantee you'll find someone's nose in one of his pies. Am I the only one who thinks he looks like a can of bull? To be fair though, Tony is a brilliant player and would be an excellent short-term quick fix option for either club. What, 80 million? 80 million pounds for a quick fix? At least when the Gunners were quoted a similar fee 2 years ago for Fiorentina's goal machine Dusan Vlahovic, he was still 21. 80 million for a man with just 18 months left on his deal. If you just wait until the end of next season, any football club in the world could poach Tony for less than the price of a banana. I remember when Man City were foolishly impatient and stupid enough with their new takeover money burning a hole in their pocket that they paid Hamburg £18 million, back when that was a lot of money, to take midfield enforcer Nigel de Jong in January 2009. If they had just waited 4 more months, they could have had him for free. And now, 80, not 18, 80 for Tony. To be honest though, this exorbitant price tag probably shouldn't even scare you that much. It's just English tax. Lads, last week I read a report that Everton were demanding that Manchester United pay them £100 million for centre-back Jared Brantwaite. And I thought it was weird when Newcastle charged Man United 50 mil for Sean Longstaff, but 100? How are we living in a world where the Toffees want a 9-figure sum of money for some ginger centre-back from Carlisle who's played less than 30 Premier League games and last season had been ditched on loan to PSV? If Brantwaite was that good, you know, £100 million good, would you not have kept him for last season's hideous relegation battle instead of, you know, loading in Connor Cody for a year? Someone whose England career is so quickly fallen off a cliff is now just wedged between 2 rocks in the sea. Honestly, he has started just 4 matches for Leicester City in the Championship this season. So the £80 million price tag probably shouldn't scare me too much. Well, Tony's whole career makes no sense. This is a striker Newcastle binned off only 5 years ago. Rafa Benitez is a man who has an eye for talent, and yet in the summer of 2018, he sanctioned the club selling Tony to Peterborough for £650,000. Lads, Mike Ashley was a completely rotten, greedy vulture of a Premier League owner, but everyone always gives him a pat on the back for at the very least fleecing Liverpool out of a British record £35 million for a distinctly average Andy Carroll, somebody who was marketed as being the next Alan Shearer, but in reality, he was just an unprofessional lump of meat who probably celebrated every goal he scored with cake, strippers and wine. And it's funny, there was a future Alan Shearer lurking around English football back then, but it was just that lanky Spurs misfit who was at Leyton Orient on loan. But I'm sorry, Ashley has officially deleted that transfer by selling a potential £80 million prospect for less than a fortnight of Jadon Sancho wages. 650k. Joe Weller's probably been paid more than that to box. I mean, selling Alexander Mitrovic to Fulham in July 2018 should have opened the door for Tony to be given chances. Instead, he was just quickly thrown away as if he had just eaten an infected burger in one of those zombie apocalypse films. I mean, what was the big fear? That Tony would turn into a werewolf who'd try and eat Rafa's mum? Ditching a 22-year-old raw Tony and replacing him with an incredibly short-term loan deal for a nearly 30-year-old Salomon Rondon. That was a quick fix. That was a stupid quick fix. And now I'm saying that's what Tony has become. Tony is a guy who, was banging in the goals for Peterborough in League One. And I remember him saying in the media that he thought he was ready for a Premier League switch back then. I thought that was a joke. I mean, League One is League One. Both Alfie May and Jordan Rhodes are currently hunting down the Golden Boot this season, and they're being chased down by Andy Cole's son. I mean, for those of you who would assume that he's an up-and-coming Golden Wonder kid who we need to watch out for, and that he's going to be following in the footsteps of his daddy's footsteps. Now, Devante Cole turns 29 this season. How is Andy Cole's son nearly 30? If you think that's weird, oh, Teddy Sheringham's son is 5 years off 40 and nearly retired. What? How does a footballer who I watch score in the Premier League for West Ham now have a nearly 40-year-old son? Am I really gonna have seen both a father and his son retire? Wow, that does make me feel older than a tree. But yeah, Toney goes to the championship, breaks records with an incredible 33-goal season, then nets 12 goals in his first Prem season, then 20 the next, all while juggling the horror and torment of being denied a World Cup spot with England halfway through. The mental strength, the resilience is incredible. I mean, getting banned for betting was pure foolishness, and I don't think he really convinced anyone with his half-hearted excuses in that Stephen Bartlett interview. It was absolute pig stupid, but it happens. It's in the past. Move on. 8 months is a huge waste of your football career. But to be fair, I mean, does anyone think Rio Ferdinand has spoiled his career? He was banned for 9 months in 2004, but does anybody talk about that now? No. Because he still had a stupidly successful career. 8 months is long, but at least he wasn't given the same punishment as Enoch West. Anyone know who he is? Anyone? Hands up! Has anyone ever heard of this man? Yeah, I mean, to look at him, he looks like one of those creepy guys who just play chess for a living and who store dead foxes in their fridge. Anyway, he was just an old-fashioned British centre-forward goal machine for Manchester United. I mean, having that profile, an English centre-forward banging in for Man United, he'd have cost what? £100 million in today's market? Yeah, he was caught for match fixing. You know how long he was banned for? 30 years! 30 long years. That's a punishment I would expect for breaking a curse in Pirates of the Caribbean, not in English football. So yeah, 30 years out of the sport. Wow, that was a different time. Lads, Nottingham Forest bought this guy from Sheffield United for £5. A single £5 note. Nowadays, that might be able to afford you up 2 bags of crisps, a Dairy Milk bar, and a bag of the shopkeeper's pubes. Yeah, I go to a very weird corner shop. So at least Toney hasn't had to retire in disgrace. But an £80 million switch to Arsenal? If Toney ditches Brentford now, does anybody think that would just taste like rotten milk in their mouth? No. No. Absolutely not. People will be screaming to the rooftops that Toney has walked out of Brentford when they stood by him. In his hour of need, they stood by their man. I'm sorry, what were they supposed to do? Rip up his contract and let him walk for free? No! I'm sorry, what a load of sheep diarrhea. If Toney leaves, Brentford will be getting a pay packet of 80 to 90 million pounds. You know what that could do for the club. Immediately, suddenly, the Bees can sign a 45 million pound striker at the very least. I mean, go out there and sign Victor Boniface from Bayer Leverkusen. Why not? You can get ambitious now. Maybe bring in Eddie Nketiah too. Listen, I'm not saying that Brentford is some poor little orphanage whose players have to live off gruel and Rice Krispie buns. I mean, they have sold big players for good money in the past, pocketing some nice change for Ollie Watkins, Simon Ram, Neil Maupay, Chris Mepham, Ezri Konsa, Andre Gray, even Scott Hogan, despite him having all the natural ability of a squished pumpkin. But £80 million, 80 mil for a club like Brentford, that is obscene. If you had told the Bees fan back in 2020 that they would sign this bloke from Peterborough and he would go on to score 68 goals for them in 124 games, with 32 of those coming in the Premier League, and that he'd be sold for a £75 million profit, they would weed themselves with excitement. Forget about the 8-month ban. Signing Toney from Peterborough for a measly £5 million has proven to be one of the greatest transfers in the history of the English game. Lads, Toney is a man who openly said he wanted that move to Celtic instead back in 2020, and you can understand the temptation. Instead of losing to teams like Rotherham, Lincoln, and Wimbledon, to be offered European nights and Old Firm derbies at an absolutely British giant. Oh wow, if Celtic had bought him from Posh, without a doubt, they would have achieved the 10 league titles in a row. But he wouldn't have had this Premier League career. He wouldn't have been on that road that leads to Arsenal or Chelsea. I mean, when was the last time a Celtic beefcake centre-forward goal machine had a better career elsewhere? Odson Edouard is wet panda dung in a Crystal Palace shirt. Moussa Dembele is now 27 years old and is banished to Al Ettifaq in the Saudi desert. Even Gary Hooper was a horrible Norwich flop. The last striker who was a success at Celtic Park and went on to have further success elsewhere was Henrik Larsson, who went on to win the Champions League with Barcelona, and he quit Celtic in 2004. Look, I think Toney would be a great signing for Arsenal. A great short-term one, although hilariously overpriced. I mean, do I think he's an ungrateful coward for quitting Brentford, like most of Twitter will think? Absolutely not. Relative to his talent, Toney has not made that much money in football. He's still on the same contract he signed in 2020 when he jumped out of League One, apparently earning £20,000 a week. A player of his utter brilliance should arguably be earning £1 million a month. Instead, that's what he makes in a year. According to the roster on spotrac.com, he is the 20th highest paid player at Brentford, despite being easily the best by a country mile. If the Gunners offer him a 4-year contract worth £200,000 a week, How could he possibly turn that down? Considering the Gunners pay Kai Havertz 280k a week and Gabriel Jesus 265k a week, you just know Toney is going to be offered a 10 times pay increase at least. This guy wants to be challenging for Premier League titles, to compete in the Champions League, and to boost his chances of being Harry Kane's backup at Euro 2024. He would be a perfect fit for Arsenal and a brilliant signing. How could he turn that down? To me, he's got to think of his career. He's not a boyhood Brentford fan. No, Brentford chose not to sack him. Great, they're going to get £80 million as a reward, and he's going to get on with his career. To me, he's going to get a lot of criticism for this, but to me, it's a no-brainer. My only worry would be for Arsenal, £80 million is a lot. Anyway, that's what do you think? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? All right, let me know. Is Toney right or wrong for leaving Brentford? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe. As always, I'll talk to you in a while.